iPhone 11 versus iPhone XR now. So I've covered both of these individually for 2021, but now these phones are still popular. They're still selling, and which one to go with right now? They do offer quite a bit of value still, mostly because they're large iPhones with a similar design, not exactly the same, but similar to the latest iPhone, and you're not going to pay quite as much as the latest iPhone, actually not even close. So let's go ahead and take a look at the prices to get things kicked off. iPhone 11, $599, and look at the several different colors. It comes in black, green, yellow, purple, red, white, lots of colors there. Down here we have similar colors, but they swapped out the blue for the green on the iPhone 11, and I do think a lot of the colors on the XR just pop out a little bit more. But you know, these phones have gone on to be some of the best sellers. It's not hard to see why. These phones are large iPhones with similar looks to the more premium devices, and they're a lot more accessible to a lot more people. Very easy to see why they're so popular. Even if the tech person will say, you know, somebody who's into tech will say, you know what, that screen sucks, some bezels look ugly, whatever you want to say, that does not matter because sales speak for themselves. Now, build quality and design between both of these, which one should you pick up now? Well, I think the iPhone XR looks a little bit cleaner with its single camera, but over here on the iPhone 11, it looks a little more modern with its dual camera. In addition, it does have a much better, I think, overall camera offering on the 11. Now, both of these do have the exact same build quality when it comes to the side profile. So you can see we do have aluminum build on both of them. Even at the bottom, they are identical. So Apple basically just took this phone, added a few things, and just kind of recycled the design over the next year. Now, in the front, you'll notice that these phones do have bezels that are quite thick compared to iPhone 12 and more modern devices. So do keep in mind, you have to deal with that. If you're okay with these borders, you won't actually care much, and they kind of fade away out of existence. You don't really notice them when you're just kind of using the phone, but if you compare it side by side with something newer or even a Samsung competing device, you'll see a big difference there. Also, they do retain the notch, but the notch hasn't gone away at all yet, so that's not really a big deal either at this current time. Now, right now, which one should you buy in terms of display? Well, if you go with either, you're getting the same display, 625 nits Retina LCD displays. They both offer True Tone, which does adapt to kind of the lighting conditions to make it easier on the eye. That's been on iPhone since the 8 series. You do have the night shift modes, and you also have dark mode on both phones. Both of them don't have 3D touch, but they do have haptic presses, which will fool you for thinking it's basically the same feature. Apple did go away from 3D touch, not the fastest, but I don't know how many people are actually using the shortcut. So when it comes to display, it's the same exact experience. The only thing I will say is that you're not getting the sharpest text. However, a lot of people, millions, don't even notice, don't even care. So I'm not going to call this a con really, but if you want to talk from a technical standpoint, both the displays are weak by comparison to, you know, newer iPhone 12 that upgraded display to the OLED edition. So that's a big area of improvement on a newer phone, but still, I still like these displays because Apple doesn't really sell iPhones, the newer ones, with LCDs anymore. So if you're an LCD fan, you'll still like either one of these. Now, software, this is where you should pick the iPhone 11 because not only does it have, you know, longer software support, but it does have more software when it comes to the camera, just because it has an extra feature that allows you to go wide angle. So definitely nice here. I do think the 11 will get more camera support and more features for a longer period of time than the iPhone XR. Other than that, the iOS 14.4.1, definitely do that update if you haven't already. It's a security update. These are the same. They operate exactly the same. You wouldn't even know until you turned it around if you were using an iPhone 11 or a XR. It's identical. Now, I'd also pick the 11 for more longevity and performance as well because of the 4 gigs of RAM in here versus the 3. Now, both of these phones do have this thing where they'll reload apps after too many are open, but at the same time on iPhone, it doesn't do a lot of multitasking per se, so you probably are just focused on one app at a time anyway. You won't really notice either of them choking up at all, but the XR will reload apps first before the iPhone 11 will. So from a performance standpoint, go ahead and pick up the iPhone 11. It will be the better choice long term. And not only that, it will technically get a better Geekbench score. We showed that in our speed test before, so you can go check that out if you want to see that, but just overall more powerful specifications for iPhone 11. We already know this. Now, storage is about the same. 64 gigs is where it starts. I think that's too little. I would recommend you go with the 128 28 gigabytes if you do want this phone for more than say a couple years, because 64 gigs will run out fast. And over here on the 10R, I got the 256 gig model. I'm not sure if I don't think Apple sells a 256 anymore, but you can definitely find it certain places elsewhere. Okay, so when it comes to the battery life on both of these phones, the iPhone 10R had a slightly better battery life. I'm talking like less than an hour better in my experience, but the iPhone 11 is also very good. It was actually outperformed for me by the 11 Pro and Pro Max, but both of these are easily able to make it through a day on battery life, and that's a good thing because certain newer phones have worse battery, like the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 12 mini. So 10R won't let you down. The iPhone 11 also won't let you down. So both of these are excellent in this regard. They also do excellent when it comes to standby and gaming battery life. So when you're doing those activities, they do drain slower than I've seen on other phones. So major win here for the battery life. And then when it comes to their stereo sound,
iPhone 12 Pro Max is incredibly good. By the end of this video, you're going to know after my 12 Pro Max is incredibly good. By the end of this video, you're going to know after my 3...
It's essentially the same audio performance on both of these phones. And that brings me on to the camera, because the camera is an area where this is why I say just skip out the 10R if you're looking at these older iPhones and just get the iPhone 11. This camera is just overall better. It has, wide angle, and where it really improved was the front facing camera. The front facing camera here is superb. It can do 4K 60 and it just matches perfectly with these rear cameras. So this is like the total package here, except for a telephoto. If you like zooming, neither one of these phones will offer long zoom. Tops out at 5x. This is not those phones for that, but a lot of people don't even need zooming abilities, so that these could both work out there. But I will say 10R is not a bad camera. It's still an iPhone camera, so it's going to be pretty darn good, but it's it's as basic as it gets for an iPhone shooter. And then on the front here, you have an okay camera, but it's nothing to write home about. It's not that impressive. On the front, you can only do up to HD. It looks like HD 60 on the front of the 10R. So not the most impressive overall, spec on the 10R, but it does produce good results with the Smart HDR camera on here, especially on the rear camera. I will be using that more for the 10R. Nobody's going to complain about your quality, but it's just kind of basic compared to the 11, and definitely this one will hold up longer in terms of versatility. So I would pick the 11 hands down on the camera. I also will say in terms of Face ID, I found the 11 to be just a little bit faster on certain angles over the 10R. Although the 10R is not bad whatsoever, again, I just found the 10R failed me a few more times than the 11. Of course, it's going to show me up in the video. Why would it fail in the video? It doesn't want to show you guys that it sometimes doesn't hit it, but it's still very good. It's just the iPhone 11 has a little bit more angles. You can put on an angle and it can still see you. Is there any cons? This guy is just praising these phones, isn't he? Right? Nick just praising these phones all day. No, there is some cons, and the main one for me is the reception on both of these phones. Neither one of these are the best, and neither one of these are 5G. So keep in mind, you might be seeing these as values right now because you're finding them super cheap, but these phones will not be supported with the newer 5G standards going forward. So I wouldn't buy these thinking I'm going to use it for 5 years. I would buy these using them a couple years until 5G becomes super widespread. Then I would upgrade. But if you are going to keep them a long time, do keep in mind you will be on an older standard of 4G LTE. And when I say that, don't think I'm saying that like these phones don't work. And I've been saying this for a long time. It's not that they don't work. It's just the competition, even the competition of the newer iPhones, the iPhone 12 series, is better than these on reception. So how are they holding up as a phone in 2021? I think if you look at these phones on the surface, they're great iPhones. They're still great iPhones. If you start looking into specs, you start looking at the market, you start comparing these to what else is on offer, these phones are starting to look a little bit dated, especially in the specifications of the display, the way it looks on the outside, stuff like that. But you have to be doing a comparison mindset. If you're just appreciating this phone for what it is, it's still a very nice iPhone on both of them. So in conclusion, which one is for you in 2021? Well, first of all, you got to be okay with no 5G. I think if you have an older iPhone, you've been holding out, it finally broke, you said, I'm going to use this thing until it breaks. Or it's just getting ridiculous on the battery and you don't want to pay big for an iPhone right now. It's just not in your budget, or you just don't care to. These two phones are still for sale, and both of them are going to give you an excellent experience, but I would say just spring the extra $100 and get the iPhone 11. It has the better camera setup. It has the more longevity with the processor. It will be updated longer. The 10R, just go for it if you just think you just don't got that extra 100 to spare on the 11. You don't want to. You don't really care about an extra camera. You just want a basic iPhone with a bigger screen than what you used to have. Go with the iPhone 10R. You will appreciate this phone as well. So that's it for me right now of the iPhone 11 versus the 10R. These phones continue to remain super popular, and let me know which one you have, or if you used to have it, share your experience with the community, because these phones are still definitely something people seek out. So thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Nick here, helping you to master your technology. I will catch you all in the next episode, and peace.